The world is at war. Two countries, Ava and Kislev, have been fighting for so long that no side even remembers why the fighting started. Using giant mechanical robots to fight, they run the risk of tearing the world apart. Meanwhile, a young man in a small village is about to be thrust into an era-long epic that will decide the fate of the planet. Welcome back to the world of Xenogears. We last left off concluding the events of Episode 4 of the Xenogears timeline, which detailed the Shivat and Solaris War. There are a couple of more things that we need to address before we get to our main protagonist, so sit back, enjoy, and try to keep up as best you can. Krelian is still in control of Solaris, and at this stage has made contact with Miang. They share the same goal, the resurrection of Deus, and so they begin working together. Krelian creates a clone of Cain named Ramses. Ramses is born out of the need for Solaris to control the contact, and so Krelian creates Ramses to mold him into the ideal human and an artificial contact. Many characters in the game are born in the years preceding this, including Kitan, Rico, Sigurd, Margie and Bart. Of course, the most important people to be born are the true contact and the anti-type of this era. In the year 9981, Fei Fong Wong and Eliahim Van Houten are born. Fei is born to Karen and Kan Wong on the surface, while Ellie is born in Solaris as the daughter of a Geblar general who will later be reassigned as a caretaker of the Soylent system. Soon after this, the current Miang dies, and her new incarnation awakens in the body of Fei's mother, Karen Wong. Miang begins experimenting on her son, the Contact, with the help of Krelian. Krelian informs Cain that the true Contact has been found, and that there is no need for Ramses anymore. He is tossed aside, and enters the military academy of Jugend under the name Charon Ramses, with the aim of joining Gebler. The experiments being carried out by Fei were an attempt to awaken the power of the Contact, and these experiments took its toll on Fei's mind and soul. Fei's father, Kan, was not aware of these experiments, or of Miang. Countless people died before Fei's eyes as they attempt to spiritually awaken him. As time went on, the pain became too much for Fei to bear, so in an attempt to deal with his suffering, he created a new persona in his subconscious, which would take control any time something bad happened to him, splitting his personality in two. This personality began to hate, and soon craved destruction. Graf found out about the Contact, and wished to reclaim his old body and power, as he had been the Contact previously as Lacan. Graf confronts Fei's father, Kan, and easily defeats him, turning his attention to Fei and Miang. Seeing his father on the brink of death, and his mother in danger, Fei could not hold in his other personality. The hatred in his subconscious awakened as terrible power, and before one of his attacks strikes at himself, Karen takes the hit, and dies in Fei's arms. This act was blamed on this other personality, which now had a name, Id. Id would refer to the original Fei as the coward, the one who kept all the happy memories of childhood to himself. Graf takes Fei with him, but years later, Kan Wong finds Graf and Fei in his Id form. Graf takes over Kan's body, but this time Graf is not 100% in control. Kan's mind was still fighting for his original body, and would sometimes be able to take back control for a short period of time. In the times he is in control, he calls himself Wise Man. During one of these episodes, he takes Fei and leaves him in a remote village called Lahan. Here, a third personality would develop in Fei, one that would block out all previous memories and begin life anew in this village. This is the Fei that we know throughout the majority of the game. Kitan and Sigurd both enter the Jugend Military Academy and acquaint themselves with Ramses. Ramses meets a woman inside Gebler and begins a relationship with her. Little does he know that this is the new incarnation of Miang. The kingdom of Ava is taken over by Shakhan, who locks up the true heirs to the Fatima dynasty, Bart and Margie. Sigurd escapes from Solaris and returns to his homeland where he rescues them both. Kitan begins working for Solaris. Various other events take place, which I will not mention as I will be here forever detailing every little thing that occurs, so let's move swiftly along. Ellie enters the Gebler Academy and completes her training, joining the Gebler forces. Kitan is sent to the surface by order of Cain to watch over Fei, as Solaris is very aware of Fei and his power as the Contact. Graf takes over his body once more and sets in motion a plan that will awaken Faye's power once again. He commissions a special gear to be made by Kislev based off his own gear, and manipulates the Gebler forces to steal this gear and make their escape flying over Lahan village. And here is where the game begins.
Finally!
Faye is eagerly anticipating the wedding of his best friends, Timothy and Alice, enjoying his time painting and teaching martial arts to the locals. While visiting Khitan, he sees gears land on Lahan and begin fighting each other, these of course being the forces from Kislev and Gebler. Fighting in the village is tearing it apart, and so Faye and Khitan attempt to rescue its inhabitants. This was when Faye saw Weltall, the special gear commissioned by Graf. Feeling strangely drawn to it, he pilots it thinking he can get rid of the attackers. As he is fighting, he sees Timothy being shot and killed by the attackers, and something snaps inside of him. Id awakens after a long slumber, and in a demonstration of his absurd power, destroys the entire village of Lahan. The next morning, Faye is back to normal and is told by Khitan that he destroyed the village. The survivors, including his friend Dan, tell him to get lost, and so Faye decides to travel to Ava to avoid any reinforcements. While in Blackmoon Forest, Faye encounters a Gebler soldier who survived the battle. The Contact and Antitype are reunited, as Faye and Ellie meet for the first time since Lacan and Sophia, all those centuries ago. Faye expresses his loss of faith and feelings of depression, while Ellie rejects, calling him a coward. They are attacked when Khitan shows up with Weltall, telling Faye to pilot it. While initially reluctant, he decides to save Ellie instead. Ellie takes off while Faye and Khitan move on to Ava. In the desert, Faye encounters Graf, who asks Faye if he desires power, and speaks of his intention to kill God. He disappears. Faye and Khitan eventually meet Bart, the heir to the throne of Ava, and Sigurd, who Khitan recognizes from his days at Jugend. Faye and Bart navigate their way through a cave, where they meet one of the sages of Shivat, Balthazar. Faye and Khitan join Bart on his sandship, the Yggdrasil, and agree to help Bart save his cousin Margie from Ava by infiltrating the palace. It is here that Faye first encounters Wiseman, Ramses, and Miang. He also meets Ellie once again, who helps them escape. The group brings Margie back to Nisan, as she is currently the Holy Mother of the Nisan sect. Faye notices the painting of Sophia in Nisan's church, remarking on its familiarity. The group devises a plan to get rid of Shah Khan and restore the Fatima family as the true rulers of Ava. This plan has Faye fighting near the Kislev border, while the Yggdrasil mounts an offense against Ava forces. Faye meets Ellie once more, this time with Ellie attacking Faye as a result of a drug known as Drive. After the battle, Faye progresses and fights Vanderkam. Faye sees his comrades decimated by Vanderkam's machine, and this triggers Id to awaken once more. The Weltall transforms into a monstrous form and appears in front of the Yggdrasil, thousands of miles away in an instant. Ramses fights Id, but is defeated with relative ease. Bart and Sigurd then crash the Yggdrasil on top of the gear, but the gear lifts the massive ship and almost destroys it single-handedly, demonstrating the true power of the Contact. The group are unaware that Faye was in the red gear, and begin efforts to repair the craft. Meanwhile, Faye wakes up in a Kislev prison, where he befriends Rico, the battle champion, and Hammer, a demi-human merchant. Khitan finds Faye and joins him. Faye meets up with Wiseman once again, who explains that it was him who brought Faye to Lahan years ago, and that he was a friend of Khan.
Which he isn't because he's Khan and he's a liar.
Faye saves Kislev with the help of Rico and eventually Ellie, who decides to join the group as she is sick of fighting and doesn't know what to believe anymore. The group steals a flying craft known as the Goliath from a Kislev military base and aim to get back to Ava and Bart when Graf attacks the group. After the fight, the group sees the Yggdrasil, but unfortunately all Bart sees is a Kislev warship, and so orders it to be shot down. Faye and Ellie awaken adrift on some debris before they are saved by the floating city of Thames, led by its captain named Captain. Gebler forces find out about Ellie's desertion. Miang attempts to brainwash Ellie into sabotaging the Thames, but is unsuccessful. In the ensuing battle, Faye fights Ramses and gets critically injured during the skirmish. On board the Thames is a man named Jezia, who attended Jugend with Sigurd and Kitan. Jezia's son Billy is an Etone, which is basically an enforcer for the Ethos organization. He tells them of the Ethos' regenerative technology, and so the group brings Faye to the Ethos headquarters to be healed. Soon after this, the group learns that the Ethos is really just a control mechanism by Solaris, and confront the church's leader, Bishop Stone. Following him to the ancient ruins of Zeboim, they discover Emerelda, the nanomachine colony that Kim created thousands of years ago. Krelian wants the girl for his research, and before the group can stop Stone from getting away with her, they are attacked by Id, this time out of his gear. Id is stopped by Wiseman, and the group escapes. They find Faye up and standing outside his gear, with a case of anterograde amnesia. Now determined to stop Solaris, they decide to seek out the ancient city of Shivat. The group climb Babel Tower and eventually are able to board Shivat and enter the city of Alphil Aura. Queen Shivat is waiting for them. Remember, she is still alive thanks to Krelian. The gang meets Maria Balthazar, the daughter of a former Solarian engineer and protector of Shivat. Queen Shivat welcomes the group, and recognizing their potential and the potential of Faye, urges them to defeat Solaris and free the Earth once and for all. Gebler attacks the city, but with the help of Maria, the group is able to defend Shivat. Nisan gets invaded by Ava and Shakan, so the group return to the surface and liberate the hamlet. Bart finds the Omni gear of his ancestor Roni Fatima and aligns with it. Awakening the ancient weapon of Fort Jasper, they are able to destroy the 3 gates that lock Solaris away, and during this take in Emerelda, who originally fought the party. With Shivat's help, the party finally enters Solaris. Faye meets Ellie's parents, and the group enters the Soylent system and learn the truth about the wells and how humanity is being used for food and biological matter. Faye is temporarily captured by the Gazel Ministry, where he learns that Kitan has been a Solarian spy working for Cain all this time. The Ministry explain their plans to awaken Deus, and that they need Ellie for this to be achieved, as she must be sacrificed in order for Deus to awaken. All of this is Krelian and the Gazel's plan. Kitan turns on Solaris, however, and helps Faye and the others escape. Hammer appears and takes Ellie hostage. Ellie's mother protects her child and is killed by Hammer in the process. Graf shows up and attacks the group, including Ellie's father, who is killed riding his gear. Seeing Ellie in so much pain is too much for Faye, and finally, in front of everyone, Id awakens. In another demonstration of his power, he destroys Solaris in his transformed gear, and before he continues his rampage, is subdued by Ellie. The group locks Faye away, until Ellie frees him, and feeling tremendous guilt, Faye decides to leave the group with Ellie and the Weltall. They are attacked by Ramses on their descent, still hellbent on proving his superiority over Faye. The Weltall is indeed destroyed by Ramses, and Faye and Ellie crash into Black Moon Forest, where they met for the first time. Just as a side note, the plot gets very messy here, as many will know, Disc 2 is largely delivered through cutscenes, so apologies if I seem to touch on events lightly. The Weltall gets rebuilt to be even more powerful, and when Ramses finds him, Faye is able to defeat his gear. Ellie and Emerelda remove the limiter from the humans on the surface that inhibits their true potential by releasing nanomachines into the atmosphere, believing that they will begin a new era of freedom now that Solaris was gone. A Solarian weapon awakens and spreads destruction across the land, before being defeated by Bard in a modified Yggdrasil gear being hidden by Kislev. Having felt like peace had finally come, the group was instead met with disaster, as countless humans around the globe began transforming into wells out of the blue. Ellie becomes a sort of leader to these despondent souls, and thousands of wells travel to Nisan to hear her speak, as Sophia had done 500 years ago. The rest of the group began searching for and acquiring their Omni gears and the Anima relics. During this time, Ellie and Faye begin a romantic relationship, fulfilling yet another one of their roles as the contact and antitype. Cain is assassinated by Ramses when he learns about his creation, and thus Krelian the Gazel use the Gatia key to proceed with the final part of Deus' resurrection. More and more humans begin to turn into wells, and the ancient eldritch hull, Mahanon, arises from the sea, where Deus' rotting corpse has been residing for thousands of years. Faye enters the Mahanon and encounters the nucleus of Deus and defeats it. Progressing to the center of the craft, Faye and the group learn about what Deus truly is, and are then attacked by Graf and Krelian. Graf defeats Faye easily in his Alpha Veltal and is captured by Krelian. Ellie, still in Nissan, is told in order to save her friends she would have to give herself up. Despite fighting her hardest, she succumbs to Krelian, and Faye and the group are left alive. Hearing that Ellie and Krelian were in the Merkava craft, the group enters and confronts Ramsus, Miang and Krelian. Miang and Krelian again explain that all humans will be assimilated into Deus, and the anima relics attached to their Omnigears detach and are absorbed by Deus. Ramsus, hearing the truth, kills Miang and Krelian. Of course, Krelian gets back up because nanomachines. But Miang truly dies, until she is awakened anew in Ellie. Ellie and Krelian join Deus as he awakens, and the Merkava rises to transform the land around it, preparing for Deus to assimilate all of humanity. Faye begins to remember his past lives as Lacan, Abel and Kim, and decides he must find the Zohar. It awakens once more in Faye, and as he is about to touch the Zohar and make contact, is interrupted by Wiseman, who reveals himself to be Faye's father, Khan, in Graf's body. Khan puts Faye's mind to peace as Faye learns about the personalities he kept buried. Id, the coward, and Faye. It is at this moment that Faye makes contact with the Zohar and the Wave Existence. Understanding his role as the contact, Faye vows to save Ellie from Merkava, free the Wave Existence, and destroy Deus once and for all. Weltall gets transformed into Xenogears by the Wave Existence, and Graf fights Faye one last time before being destroyed, giving Lacan peace once and for all. The party finally makes its way to Merkava and confronts Deus in a final showdown. Defeating Deus with the help of Xenogears, they are able to free the Wave Existence. Unfortunately, the energy released by the Wave Existence after being freed is so huge that it will wipe out the planet. Just then, Ellie, still inside Deus, moves the Merkava above the planet so that the world won't be destroyed by the energy. Faye vows to save Ellie, and leaving the group behind, follows her into Deus to be absorbed. Here, Faye finds Krelian once more, as he has become one with God. Asking Faye to prove his love, he unleashes Ouroboros, which Faye is able to defeat when Xenogears appears. Krelian releases Ellie from Deus's grasp. Ellie explains that Krelian truly loved people more than anything, and suffered through so much hardship in his life that he thought that everyone becoming one with God would be the best for everyone. Faye and Ellie try to convince Krelian to come back with them to the planet, but Krelian rejects, instead saying that he will ascend to another plane of being. Faye and Ellie escape Deus and the Wave Existence, and return to the planet inside of Xenogears. The planet is now free of Deus, the Contact and Antitype have fulfilled their role, and finally, the inhabitants of the world can truly live in peace.